The forbidden bloodlines rise of the Nephilim, where the fallen walked, and time still bleeds. Before kings wore crowns, before the first stone was laid, before the first name was spoken beneath heaven's breath, there was war. I am the keeper of echoes, the pulse between beginning and end. I have watched stars ignite and die, have heard the bones of gods groan beneath the weight of eternity, and I remember the day heaven fractured. The heavens were not always silent. Once, light itself sang radiant and alive. Legions of celestial beings moved like rivers of fire across the firmament, each a symphony of purpose. But among them were those who looked downward and saw the world, green and unguarded. They beheld humanity frail, beautiful, filled with the spark of freedom, and envy was born in paradise. The watchers descended, 200 of them, bound by oath and defiance, fell like burning stars through the veil of dawn. Mount Hermon shuddered as their feet touched earth, a covenant of rebellion sealed in fire and dust. Their leader spoke, his voice neither mortal nor divine. Let us take root in the world below and teach them what heaven hides. And so they did. They whispered forbidden truths to humankind. The movement of stars, the crafting of metal, the writing of symbols that bind and break. Each secret pulled man closer to godhood and farther from grace. From this union of heaven's light and earth's desire came the Nephilim, giants of strength and knowledge, eyes like suns, veins that glowed with fire. They walked the early earth as kings and monsters, building cities of gold and bone. Their laughter shook mountains, their footsteps carved valleys, and men worshipped them as gods. They called it the Age of Titans, when mortals built temples in the shadows of the sky. But I knew the truth. The blood of rebellion never sleeps. The Nephilim hungered, not for food but for dominion. They drank the rivers, devoured the herds, and bent nations beneath their size. Where they walked, the earth split. Where they slept, mountains formed. The sky dimmed beneath their arrogance, and the heavens once merciful began to stir. Azazel, the teacher of war, stood before his brethren and proclaimed, "We are gods made flesh. Why bow to a throne we no longer see?" The others roared their approval, thunder answering thunder. But among them stood one who trembled, a watcher whose heart still burned with the memory of heaven. "You have mistaken flame for divinity, and fire consumes even its bearer." Yet his warning fell like dust in the wind. Thus came the first shadow. The world that burned with light was now ruled by those born of its corruption. And so it began the slow unmaking of creation. The blood of giants stained the rivers. The cries of mortals rose and wept. And in the silence between like smoke, the Creator looked down his tears. I heard the whisper that would end an age. "I will wash the earth clean." The flood was not water alone. It was memory undone. Mountains vanished, kingdoms drowned. The Nephilim, the Watchers, the golden empires, all sank into oblivion's depths. But not all perished, for I, the voice of time, saw fragments endure, buried deep in the earth, and deeper still, in human blood. Ages pass, the gods fall silent. Yet sometimes, when the wind moves across ancient stones, I still hear them breathe, and the blood of the giants still beats beneath the skin of man. The waters receded, and silence claimed what remained. But silence is not death. It is only the waiting breath between ages. From the mud of the new world, man rose again, fragile, trembling, forgetful. The flood had stolen their monuments, their masters, and their gods, but not their memory. In dreams, they still saw towers that reached the stars, and giants whose shadows burned the horizon. The watchers were gone, bound beneath earth and abyss. But the blood of their children remained, thinned but unbroken, and from that blood, kings would rise. In the cradle of rivers where Tigris meets Euphrates, the first city rose, Eridu. Its king claimed descent not from man, but from the gods who came before the flood. They called him Alulim, he who knew the dawn. In his veins, the Nephilim spark still glowed. His stature was greater than 10 men, his eyes like polished bronze, and his memory of the old world was clear. The heavens abandoned us, yet their power still hums beneath our feet. We shall raise again what the flood destroyed. So began the age of reclamation. Under Alulim, mankind dug deep into the earth and found ruins older than the flood. Vast cyclopean stones etched with symbols of light and geometry. Some said these were the temples of the Watchers themselves, buried, yet unbroken. Behold, the stones that breathe. The heart of the giants still beats within them. The people of Eridu built upon these ruins, layer upon layer, each generation forgetting a little more of the truth. And yet, their myths remembered. They spoke of gods who descended from the sky, who taught them writing, metal, healing, and war. They named them Anunnaki, but the voice of time knows these were the shadows of the Watchers, reborn in memory. As centuries turned to millennia, the bloodline of Alulim spread kings and priests, heroes and tyrants. They built Uruk, Akkad, Babylon, each claiming divine right, each whispering of stars and ancient fathers. Then came the mightiest of them all, Gilgamesh, the king who sought eternity. 2/3 God, 1/3 man, and unaware that the God in him was the echo of the Nephilim. If the gods would curse me with death, I shall find the secret they hid beneath the flood. His journey carved into stone tablets was not only for immortality, but for remembrance. For he dreamed of beings taller than towers, wielding voices that moved stone. And in his dream a whisper, "Seek the mountain where the Watchers sleep." And so he went east, beyond the gates of cedar and the mouth of rivers, into lands where sand covered secrets older than man. There, among desolate cliffs, he found ruins half swallowed by time, massive pillars etched with spirals and wings, the mark of Hermon, the first descent. He entered, torch in hand. The air was alive, not dead, but waiting. This is no tomb. This is a heart still beating. He touched the stone, and for a moment the earth remembered. A tremor, a whisper, a single voice, faint and bound by eternity. "Child of my blood, why do you seek eternity when it already flows within you?" Gilgamesh fell to his knees. The light dimmed, and thunder rolled, though the sky above was clear. The Creator buried us, but not our will. When the stars align again, the blood shall wake, and the Watchers will rise once more. The echo faded. Gilgamesh fled, but he never spoke of what he saw. The tablets tell of his despair, but not why. He had looked upon the face of his Maker and realized the gods he sought were not divine, but fallen. From that day, the kings of men bore the mark of silence. They built temples in secret shapes, aligned with stars long forgotten. They kept bloodlines pure, guarded relics that hummed with buried power. And always, always, the whisper returned, "When the sky burns twice, the sleepers shall awaken." Across empires from Egypt to Anatolia, from Sumer to the Indus, the same symbols appeared. Winged giants, lions with human faces, suns with eyes. They were not gods. They were warnings. They said the giants would rise again when man forgets the flood. And now, millennia later, their bones whisper through the dust. In caverns and deserts, beneath cities and cathedrals, the remnants of the first rebellion lie waiting. Some call them myth, some call them legend, but I have seen the truth. The blood of the Watchers runs still in kings, in prophets, in dreamers, and when mankind once again reaches for heaven with hands of pride and metal, the Nephilim shall remember their promise. The flood was not the end. It was only the beginning of forgetting. Ages turned, empires fell, and rose like waves. The blood of the giants thinned, the names of the Watchers forgotten. But memory is not so easily erased. It sleeps and waits for the dreamer to awaken it. In the age of steel and circuits, man once again climbed the Tower of Pride, a tower not of brick, but of light. In 1972, a team of archaeologists in eastern Turkey scanned the high plains near Mount Ararat, where legends claim the Ark once rested. Beneath the soil, their instruments found a perfect ring of stones, aligned not by chance, but by cosmic geometry identical to one found in Lebanon and another half buried beneath Antarctic ice. The stones hummed faintly at frequencies undetectable to the human ear, but caught by the senses, they pulsed in rhythm. This can't be natural. These alignments, they match Orion, but reversed as if mirroring the sky from another epoch. Days later, the team's equipment began recording anomalies, heat signatures beneath solid rock, and at the center of the formation, a humanoid figure, entombed in crystal, over 12 feet tall. When they attempted to drill, the machines failed. Static roared through their radios. Then, a voice not electronic, not human, a deep, ancient murmur across the signal. Do not awaken what was bound in heaven. The feed went dead. The site was sealed by military order within 48 hours. No word of it appeared in the media. But within certain circles the whisper spread. They had found a Nephilim heart, still beating. And so, mankind stood again at the edge of its own myth. The same pride that built Babel, now building towers of glass and silicon. The same hunger that drove Gilgamesh, now seeking eternity in data and DNA. Across laboratories in Geneva, London, and Jerusalem, scientists began decoding the so-called junk DNA of humanity, and therein strands long thought meaningless. They found a repeating sequence that should not exist. It matched nothing on Earth. One researcher called it the mark of the old blood. This pattern, it repeats across cultures, across time. It's almost as if someone wanted to be remembered. When they cross-referenced the sequence with ancient Sumerian carvings, the symbols aligned perfectly. The spiral of descent, the twin helix, the stairway between earth and heaven. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Vatican, in archives older than nations, priests uncovered forbidden codices. One was titled Liber Caelorum, the Book of the Heavens. Within it, sketches of colossal figures encased in stone, and a prophecy. When man builds the eye that sees all, the children of the sky shall stir beneath his gaze. The eye that sees all was the modern world itself. Cameras, satellites, AI. In 2023, during a routine satellite sweep of the Amazon basin, NASA captured images of a massive humanoid outline beneath dense vegetation nearly 300 feet long. Within weeks, local tribes reported the ground trembling, and voices echoing through the forest, voices speaking in no known language. The gods below are restless. The trees dream of fire again. The circle begins again. From the dust of Eridu to the steel of New Babylon, man repeats the covenant of arrogance. You search for the heavens but do not see the shadows they cast. The Nephilim do not die. They remember. When the last star falls from memory, and the sky is mapped but no longer seen, then shall the watchers walk again. And now, you who watch through screens and glass, what will you do when the gods you buried begin to dream again? You've walked the shadowed halls of time. You've heard the echoes of the forgotten blood. If the story of the Nephilim stirred your soul, hit the like button and share.